All right, everybody, welcome to the Peer Support Show. So I'm excited about this one today. I have two heavy hitters here, Jake Nichols and Eric Speck in the peer support realm. We'll be right back after this reel because the Pharmacy Podcast Network is going to help us sponsor this. All right, Jake, thanks for joining us today. Big weeks coming up, a big event coming up for Eric and you. And we just want, honestly, this is something I never even knew about prior to meeting Eric and you.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know about the APhA Institute on substance use disorder. So
Sure.
They got a big event coming up. And so just could you tell us about what that is, what that means for pharmacists and what we can do?
Yeah. So let me give you a little bit of history on this. So the University of Utah School of Medicine for decades had done this kind of annual multidisciplinary substance use disorder program. And basically what it was a large continuing ed, 4 or 5 day continuing ed program. But it also sought to bring in, real life components of substance use disorder treatment. And what you could do, depending on what type of clinician you were, is you could go to these breakout sessions. So they'd have sections for dentists, they'd have sections for nurses. The American Pharmacists Association had, kind of carved out a section for pharmacists, and they had started doing this in the early 80s, the pharmacist piece. There were therapist sections and so forth. And you'd probably have 400 or 500 people in a room that would gather from around the country. And it was a lot of pharmacists, but mostly pharmacy students. And a lot of pharmacists would go that are in recovery, and that's kind of how they built their network. And you sit through this program where you have some of the most well-respected clinicians in the field that will give you an update of what's new in the substance use disorder field and things that are relevant across kind of the spectrum of both students and pharmacists. So, there's a discussion on the intersection of pain and addiction. There's a discussion on the neurobiology of addiction. So, some basic science stuff, but the real benefit and the real good parts of the program are when we do, 12-step meetings. We actually get up and we facilitate a 12-step meeting in front of, again, 300-400 people, mostly students that have never seen this or pharmacists that have never seen this. And it's not scripted by any means. It's a real meeting. We go through this. We've had treatment centers bring in folks and they do a group meeting. We don't do that anymore, but that's what's been done in the past. But all that is well and good. The best part of it is you just get a very intimate group of people that want to get more involved in the treatment of substance use disorders, want to be support for, those of us in the field that are working in the field or are struggling with this or anybody that's struggling it for that matter. And it creates an incredible fellowship and people build relationships at these things that last, until they leave this earth. I'm not even doing it justice. It's really something that's very hard to explain, but it's a very intimate, also low key. We do a lot of, social events. One night we will hike a mountain. That's done every year. For those that don't want to do it, there's this great place called the Red Butte Gardens, which is just this beautiful area that people just kind of walk around this park. We go out to dinner certain nights. It's just this great 4 or 5 day event where you get some CE, but more importantly, you get a real taste of what it's like working in this field and also living with substance use disorder.
Yeah, that's neat. I've heard about the APhA Institute since I first got to recovery in 2013.
Yeah.
My first sponsor, him, Fred P. He's been going to this probably longer than you have.
Yeah, he has.
He told me about it, invited me to go. I haven't gone yet. I've been wanting to go, but I come up with every excuse in the book about why I can't go or, too busy, whatever.
Yeah.
So, at this stage of my life and what I'm doing with RPHI, I really want to finally check this out. So I'm really excited to be going this year.
Yeah.
One of the questions I have, because it seems like there's two parts to it. Like a lot of the pharmacists who go there are in recovery themselves. Like,
yes.
would you say most of the people who attend this are in recovery, or are they just more interested in it?
No, they're just more interested. So it's a great question, Eric. And there's probably a core group of us. There may be, 30 or so pharmacists in recovery. And some of these guys have literally been going this for 30 or 40 years. Fred P., who you mentioned, Fred's got to be in his high 20s, early 30s of going to this. And it's just, you get a group and then folks like you will come in and, we'll grow that group. And as happens, people pass away, people leave, they can no longer come. So it's great to get a new generation of folks that are out there. And again, this has been a cornerstone of my own recovery. Just to tell you the story real quick of how I got it, because before we hopped on, we were talking about how a lot of folks don't know about this. I knew nothing about this until I had my own struggles. And the first time I ever gave a CE program on the treatment of opioid use disorder, there was a pharmacist in the audience who was a regular attendee. And I didn't know this guy, but he was local, and he was hounding me. You have to go to this. You have to go to this. And this is literally, 5 months into my recovery. I'm broke. Yeah. I have no job. I have all these legal issues. I have no money. He's like, you gotta find
that was me. That was me when I was first hearing about it. Yeah.
And there was just something that was like, you know what? I sound like I need to go to this, as he was describing it kind of the way I did. He says, it's just a bunch of guys there that you need to meet. That's what he kept saying. And I'm like, what does that mean? And I literally got off the plane with him. He traveled and he helped support me going. This guy out of nowhere walks up to me and gives me a hug. And he says, we've been waiting for you. And I'm going, well, I guess this is how things are in Utah. And I didn't know what to make of it. And the other guy who had brought me was laughing because he had set this up, but this was a guy from Oregon, another pharmacist who had been going for years. And it was just the most welcoming thing, basically saying you're not alone. I remember walking in that room the first time. And again, you're at that early stages when you're going through this and you think, you're the lowest form of life on the planet, if that, based on what you've done and what you've gone through. And to get it, especially as a pharmacist, and then you get in this room and you see 30 or 40 other guys that have been living with this for decades and have gone through this and have conquered it. It just was like nothing I had ever experienced. And that's why I say it was truly a foundational aspect and continues to be of my own personal recovery.
Yeah, no, it definitely seems like an awesome event. For those who are interested, it's APhA Institute.pharmacist.com. You want to go to that specific webpage to check it out, get some specific information. Another question I have for you is, they say estimates are approximately 10 to 15% of pharmacists will, suffer from substance use disorder at some time in their career, sometime in their life. Yeah. Yet, I think it's like less than 1% will actually be in treatment. So there are a lot of pharmacists out there who are struggling with this, but they're not getting treatment. They're not in a recovery program through the Board of Pharmacy.
Right.
So if those pharmacists are out there listening, they realize they do have an issue or they think they may have an issue, would this be a good event for them to attend, and why? And, another concern I'm sure that person would have, because I know I would, am I going to get in trouble if I go here and admit that I have a alcohol problem or an opiate problem?
Yeah, very important question. So first off, it's a very safe space. And you see that, you see people accept that the first night when we start our, we do a 12-step meeting. I think we start off with AA. And you see students coming out and feeling comfortable speaking, and they don't necessarily have a substance use disorder, but they want to talk about a life experience. They know they're in a safe space. But there's another component of this, and me, I'm just being honest and blunt here. One of the things, I think one of the greatest things that they've done with this over the past decade or so is that NABP has sponsored a scholarship for board members that want to attend this. And again, I've just seen such a change in attitude of pharmacy boards towards this whole thing. And most of those folks have gone through this institute, and that's what really spurns this change. But that's an honest thing. If you go and some board members there and you have issues that you haven't reported, and I don't know what the dynamics of that would be, to be honest. I wouldn't feel comfortable necessarily, but that doesn't mean you can't go. It doesn't mean if you walk in that door, you're going to be identified as somebody who's an addict or a substance use issue. You just may choose not to tell your story, which again, there is no pressure to do that. It's just like a 12, so you can go and listen and take what you need and leave the rest.
Exactly.
So again, I want everybody to know it's a very safe space. There's no threat of anybody pointing you out and saying, hey, you're an addict. We need to, check you into the board and see what's going on. It's not like that. I would be, the board members wouldn't do that either, but I would want to err on the safe side with this.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I've always told people too is, like the board of pharmacy, they're not going to go out looking for you, if you have a substance use disorder.
No.
They have enough pharmacists who are struggling with substance use disorders that come to them, either through some criminal activity or being reported by, the pharmacy they work at. So they don't need to come looking for you.
No, they don't want to. No,
they don't want to. They don't want to. They're waiting for you to come to them, and hopefully it never gets to that point.
Right.
So I'm excited to be going here. It's at the end of May. It's the very end of May. It's like a Wednesday through a Saturday, I think.
Yep.
And one thing we're trying to do with Sean and through RPH Ally is raise some money to help me cover the cost of travel and the cost of stay and the cost of registration for the event. About $1,500 is what we're trying to raise. We made a small dent in that. We've got $200 to $300, but definitely, if you want to support a good cause, reach out to me on LinkedIn or on RPH Ally or Sean. We can send you the link to donate for this good cause, and it would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah. And for everybody that's watching, this isn't just for Eric. The things that he will gain from this and bring back to the RPH Ally crew, and those of you that are listening, will be absolutely invaluable. The connections he will make, the networking he will do, and the knowledge he will gain will definitely help him in his journey, but will really be a benefit to RPH Ally as a whole. So hopefully everybody can help out. It is expensive. It's in Utah. It's travel, and flights are not cheap these days. And so hopefully we can get you there and make this experience a reality for you.
Yeah, no, I'm really, really excited about it. I wish I have attended it years ago, but it's never too late to get started and attend an event like this.
Never.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome, guys. Thanks for those plugs, Jake. Because that's why Eric we talked a while ago, and it's like, no, yeah, you have to go. Like, this is so important, not only for you, but for what you can bring back to the community through this peer support channel. I'm excited for you, Eric. I want to go too. Maybe next year we'll work it out so I can come with you. I've never been to an event in Utah. I've driven through Utah, but never had. Anyways, exciting stuff. I will share those links, Eric, on where to find that, where they can support you, and then we'll definitely be having some follow-up calls after this, and especially in the peer support channel as far as all that knowledge that you can bring. So, Jake, it's always a pleasure having you on. Just love what you do for the profession. Love how open you are, how vulnerable you are, and how you use your story to help others. And that's one thing that's, breaking down those barriers and breaking down that stigma is so vital for us to move forward and to not only help our professionals, but our colleagues, but also the patients we serve. So,
absolutely,
we still got a long road ahead of us. So
we'll get.
Yeah, and I've said this before. One reason I came out with my story and been more open with it was because of Jake. And I want to say people like Jake, but Jake himself. Like when I've heard Jake's story and saw how open he was about it, it just made me feel so much better. It made me feel like I'm not the only person who this kind of stuff happened to. It made me feel like not such a bad person. And it's great when people are coming out and sharing their stories, because that alone helps people indirectly. So, that's part of what I'm doing, is trying to help people in that way, the same way Jake has helped me, and then also help them directly. If they reach out to me for some direct kind of help, I would love to be able to provide that. And going to the APhA Institute, I just felt I'll be better equipped to, help those people even better than if I hadn't attended it.
Yeah, you will be. You will be.
I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome, guys. Awesome session. We'll be talking soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks all.